Welcome to the Dutch Doctor Who channel. I am Enigmatic Joker. Welcome. The last weeks we discussed the classic era of Doctor Who, and today we start the new era. And I'm glad you are all here, and I hope you had a nice day today. You have a little short flashback, a short flashback about last week about the War Doctor, and after that I introduced the guests, and we have some very interesting guests tonight. So we kick off the last scene of the War Doctor meeting up at the National Gallery. The War Doctor forced his uncertainty of their success to his 10th and 11th incarnations. We see that in the Day of the Doctor. But took solace in the fact that they may have failed at doing the right thing, as opposed to succeeding in doing the wrong. And while he was pleased that he could call himself the Doctor, and once again, he also reminded himself that he would forget his attempt to save Gallifrey due to the timelines being out of sync, and bade farewell to Clara and his future selves and left in his TARDIS. And feeling the regeneration he had been fighting off for years was about to begin. And the last scene was that as soon as he set the TARDIS for flight, the Doctor noticed that his regenerative process had triggered automatically. And commenting on how his body was wearing a bit thin, the Doctor mused how he hoped his next incarnation's ears will be a bit less conspicuous, as he regenerated with a peaceful smile on his face. And then we see his successor would once again use the name Doctor after he regenerated. And then we hit our beginning in the first story of New Rose. But due to the timelines being out of sync, he lost all memory of what had happened at the end of the Time War, believing that he had destroyed Gallifrey and that he was the last of the Time Lords, leaving him and his two successors with an intense hatred of their war incarnation, while the Time Lords hailed him as war hero. So that's the end and beginning of the end of the War Doctor and beginning of the Ninth Doctor, and then the start of 2005 New Who. So my guests are already in the studio. First one is the company man, a favorite and famous mod, Peter Rich.
Hey, how you doing? It's been a
Hello.
long time, very
Yes.
busy time. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, welcome. And next one is one we will see in the last weeks, Sadeku. Hello.
Hello? Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Sadako.
Welcome. Yeah, Sadako. still pronounce it very
Yes.
exactly. But Sadako is the one with big knowledge of the Doctor Who, and especially also the classic one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
we have,
I'm more of a classic fan, so I'm going to be the grump this week.
We need also one. The Seven Dwarfs of Snow White. You have a grumpy one. You always need a grumpy one.
Well,
Yeah. Just got the joke. Sorry, a bit slow.
Okay, a little bit late.
Better late than never. That's my.
Okay, and we have we need also some royalty, and here she is, Queen Charlotte.
Well, this is my era now, Sudoku, so I can be the happy one.
Yes,
okay.
Not for another 2 generations, it's not.
yeah, that's for the stability. That's for the stability we need that. So yeah, the new era, the Ninth Doctor. We have had the last 8 weeks. We had the classic ones.
Mhm.
We'll start with the new Doctor. So last week we discussed the 8th Doctor and the War Doctor, and it was a little bit of a foundation for this Doctor, because I already in the beginning I said about the being out of sync and things forgetting in the right perspective. But he doesn't know. He didn't know at the time that he was in the Ninth Doctor. Didn't know that he saved the Gallifrey, but he didn't know that in the moment.
Just to because you said earlier about the fact that for me the Ninth Doctor isn't so much that he hates the War Doctor. His hatred chiefly is for the Daleks.
Yes, that's right.
Although he seems to be kind of misanthropic in general, like he just but he seems to particularly hate the Daleks, and it's like I think he still thinks of himself as the War Doctor, and it's like in a way I feel like he's kind of in between the Doctors who shun the War Doctor and because he does call himself the Doctor, but he feels justified in what he did, but he also feels well. I mean, he feels justified, but it's not a simple feeling. It's not there's still obviously he's haunted by what he did as well.
Yes,
and so it's like he seems to have gone to this kind of abandonment of nihilism about it. So it's, but that's the thing. He feels like he's in between states at the moment. I don't think he's shunned his past yet. He's in fact he's still he's a kind of continuation of the War Doctor, I would say.
Well, I'd say he's more of like the after effect. It's like he's not in the middle of the war anymore. He's not fighting anymore, but you were seeing the after effect of what a soldier's like when they come home. And I think that's the subtext for the whole of him. And I think that informs a lot of his actions. And it's so brave, I think, that Russell went with that angle because of the age group that would have been watching, including me, because you don't get a lot of that as a kid. You only get a lot of the Ninth Doctor sort of feelings and how the war's affected him until you're older, and you can obviously sort of connect it to real world soldiers and how they sort of, if you've either read about it or come across any of them.
It's like he's like physically the war's over, mentally for him it isn't. He's still mentally
he's still very much in there.
Yeah, the war is inside him. In effect, the war is inside him still.
Yeah,
he's battling with himself all the time.
It's like
definitely, Go on, Stacko. Sorry.
Yeah,
no, it's like it's
really struggling. You see him struggling during the first series.
He's still. It's like his mind's still stuck in combat mode, isn't it? That's
Yeah, and it's like he's trying to almost remember how he would be the Doctor before war.
Yeah.
It's like he knows he would go on adventures. He knows he'd have a companion, but it's relearning all that almost.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe in a way he almost maybe despises his previous selves more than the War Doctor? Like he feels like the war only came to it because of his previous selves.
No, I wouldn't say despise. I would say maybe there's a hint of jealousy that he can't be that free again.
Yeah.
To just go on adventures. And he sort of envies that a little bit. But I wouldn't say he despises pre-War Doctor stuff.
Or he decides his previous actions, like in Genesis of Daleks. That might be the case. He's got a massive PTSD.
That's kind of what I mean. Is like, is he thinking, well, look, I did the merciful thing, and the consequences were this. So from now on, no mercy for Cassandra, no mercy for the Dalek. Just making up for past mistakes almost. And
and he also believed that he was the only. I believe that he was the only Time Lord left.
Yes.
Yeah,
also,
last of his kind.
Yeah, last of his kind. So he was grieving all the time of immense suffering he had witnessed and the destruction he had caused with his actions. He believed that he did it at all. He struggled with the idea that he was. That he left the conflict with the knowledge of his hand in its in apparent conclusion, grisly conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's why you see that already in the first episode already. But the first person he meets, we know of, that is Rose. And you see then that there is some sparkle in them again. to do adventures again.
But here's the thing: is it that he's because Jabe later says that it's that he's almost he throws himself into the manicness of adventure because he's got nothing else left, and he's kind of just a bit kind of he's there's a word for it. It's kind of crashing and burning almost. He's kind of become a bit.
It's like I said, it's almost like he's like, that's why my theory is he's almost thinking, right, this is what I did pre-war, and I'm going to try and copy that, but he's so damaged he can't do it. So you get this really interesting conflict.
Like a bit of a death wish, yeah,
with this doctor, and it's like he'll be really light 1 minute, and that's why I can understand when you first view it, you think, God, why is he in some of these early episodes being really like almost over the top comedy at times? And that's what I think. I think the more you think about it, that's what that is. It's him trying to relive what he was before, but this body with the mental damage and how that affects his whole outlook. That he'll be sort of the laughing joke in 1 minute, and like you said, he'll let Cassandra die, or he'll do what he did with Dalek, and you see that viciousness, and he's almost a bit like unstable at times, this Doctor, because you go from, like I said, that sort of the manic grinning, the sort of happiness, and then the sort of if a monster gets on his wrong side, or if somebody does something, he's very quick to either dismiss it or be very vicious.
Yeah. No wonder Chris had a bit of a breakdown playing him. It's like, wow, thinking of it this way.
Well, that's what I mean. He's
playing a big, heavy character.
The Ninth Doctor, the Ninth Doctor's always interesting to me, because the more I always sort of think more about his era, the more I appreciate the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah. Yes. I was going for a bit of a horrible time during the very first series of Doctor Who, so I just kept reminding me of it, So I didn't really like the Ninth Doctor at the beginning, but thinking about it like this, it's a really good character, and it's a really good way of looking at it.
Yes, and I can also the actor. You can also see on Christopher Eccleston. He played He played the Doctor so well non-verbally.
Oh yeah.
You can see on his face that he's grieved, he's sad. And he has some cynical things about him. Really a doctor with expressive. You can see the expressive feelings on his face.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is very strong. That's a really a credit of this actor. He can place it so very non-verbally so strong. This doctor. Yeah. So this, I really liked it about it. By the way, the first thing I saw of New Who was Rose, because there was already Capaldi on television, but I started with Eccleston.
Yeah, Rose is also interesting because he's not the main character. Also, so it's interesting that when we first get introduced to the Doctor, or like I did, or my generation did, he wasn't the centerpiece. He sort of was not like to the side, because he was still there, but you could firmly see Russell wanted to center Rose and make her very sort of likable, and you understood and you related to her, and then to sort of have the Doctor almost on the periphery a bit.
Yeah.
So you can always what you can see on screen is that he had a particular rage towards the Daleks. He's really
I'm just thinking, because in some ways it does feel for me like his purpose in living now is just save as many lives as he can in a moment. But he's quite reckless about it. Sometimes but I think maybe if he's got a reason to live, it's look, I lost my world because I did it as a sacrifice to save the wider universe, and now I'm tidying up the last business of just doing what I can to save lives wherever I can.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's also very attached to the Earth. Very attached to the Earth as well. That's going to be his home from home now in this series.
Well, yeah, and also that you get that scene. I'm trying to think. Is it at the end of episode 2 when Rose has just seen her world destroyed?
That's episode 2, yeah.
and he almost in that episode throughout it, he almost has this sort of insensitive nature, but then he does that lovely moment when he takes her back, and he sort of says like, just look at it, like, and for me that is him sort of saying you need to appreciate what you've got, because it could just go, and you've seen it now, and I've had that happen to my planet. And it's sort of a somber, but it's a very Russell T Davies moment, actually, because it is somber what he's doing, but it's him trying to say, like you said, PD, and like what I got from that scene is the little things are important. Appreciate what you have in the moment.
That's it. There was a moment like in Deep Space Nine where Cisco turned around talking to Jake Sisko and said, look up, look around, live in the moment, Jake, because when it's gone, it's gone. Of those lovely moments in science fiction. Yeah, it's a brilliant moment. Absolutely brilliant moment, Charlotte.
So, Rose Tyler was his most constant companion. During the Sleeting's family's attempt to destroy the Earth for profit, he also gained a temporary ally in Harriet Jones. We see that during the series.
Yeah,
Jones is a very important person in the series. He comes back as prime minister after a few stories. But the crisis also began on an ongoing love-hate relationship between the Doctor and Rose's mother Jackie. There's also an interesting and funny dynamics there, and as well as with Rose's boyfriend Mickey Smith. So there we have the four portions actually are connected.
I have to say the business between the Doctor and Mickey, that was where I really didn't warm to his Doctor. It reminded me, in hindsight, it reminds me more of the Sixth Doctor. I just thought, why is he being so unpleasant with Mickey? I mean, I wasn't. I found that a bit unpleasant, but anyway.
I think honestly he saw Mickey as a tag along.
Yeah.
And it was a big step just having Rose with him.
What's a tag along?
Oh God, how do I find a tag along?
It's a third wheel. Someone else.
Third wheel. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, third wheel.
And it was such a big step for Rose, for him to have Rose on there. It was like, God, I'm just getting used to having you, and now I have to listen to your stupid boyfriend. That's how I've always seen it, or that's how I've always read it when it comes to this Doctor's personality with Mickey.
And Rose didn't like also that Mickey wanted to come in the TARDIS.
That was later. That was later.
Later by the Tennant, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
My first time out, and I got a spaceship.
Yeah, she wants the Doctor for herself.
Oh, especially David Tennant's version. She wanted all to herself.
So you can see the expression on her face when Mickey wants to go with them, and because she thinks, oh I want to have the Doctor for myself.
Yeah.
It's the Doctor. This is Doctor. Also, the Doctor. There's no Time Lord. There's no Master during his era in the first series. So
now I remember because I remember at one point he says like I can't sense them. Yeah. If they were alive, I'd know mentally. I do remember fans speculating, but in Brain and Morbius there was that hint that Time Lords can shield themselves from each other. So there's always I thought, well. Yeah. He couldn't sense Morbius. Maybe there's another Time Lord out there that is alive, but he can't sense them. Although I think a lot of fans felt, well, wait a minute, Russell's probably done this to draw a line between the classic and new. So maybe we're not going to get the Time Lords back. Maybe it's just the Doctor now.
Yeah.
I think also it was such a battle for them just to get Daleks, wasn't it? They were probably like, right, we've got Daleks. Let's not even try anything else like big from classic.
Yeah, Toclophane were originally supposed to be the replacement for the Daleks, but Russell reused them in Series 3 instead.
Yeah, and that's interesting because at the end of Season 1, they're actually the Daleks are harvesting humans and converting them. And it's like that would make sense if the Toclophane were involved
Yeah.
instead. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the
Yeah,
change
but
sort of come over.
Yeah, but at least he sort of then added the bit in the script of, oh, because they're doing this, which is not a very typical Dalek thing to do, it's literally made them go mad.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Davros did it
Yeah.
though. Davros turned humans into Daleks, so copying the creator,
Yeah.
in other words.
Oh yeah, but obviously Davros would have perfected it and done it right, while there's a load of
Yeah.
Daleks doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of Frankenstein's monster, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
making crazy Daleks instead of normal Daleks. Wonder if they all ended up in the asylum in the end, or if any of them would have survived.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So, the story. He also had a short spell of adventures with Adam Mitchell. That is an employee of Henry van Statten. That episode. And but at Rose's request, but evicted him for almost dramatically altering human history. But because he stole some technology and wanted to do it in his own time. But that was not so good idea because the Doctor was very mad at him.
Yeah.
I felt like Adam was only there so Russell could have a bash at Adric again.
Like Edric. Like Edric.
I'm not mentioning anything about the actor on this one. I'm not mentioning anything. Okay.
Okay. Well, okay. One thing about the actor, he wasn't very good.
No. That's the only thing we can legally mention.
Is it an insult for Edric or?
Well, no, and Russell deliberately wrote him like a wet lettuce, so it was like we weren't that surprised when it was like, oh, you've done one little adventure and now you're out.
That's it, yeah. I think that's why Doctor warmed up to Mickey because he was so bad.
Well, his first impression of Mickey was literally Mickey clinging to Rose's leg like a little boy, crying his eyes out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, in war, you'd see that kind of timidness and people shattered to the nerves. I mean, so why? I didn't quite understand why the Doctor would judge Mickey that way for breaking down. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well,
then Mickey's always been like that, though.
Yeah, but I also think if you compare,
sorry, Charlotte.
I get what you're saying, Sudoku, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was thinking like, God, what I faced, and compared to what you're facing, mate, it's not much. Like that's how I would almost try and sort of understand what like to combat what you just said.
Yeah, it's got a bit Sarah Connor. Yeah, best way of explaining it. Really, got a bit Sarah Connor.
After resuming his adventures with Just Rose, the pair were accidentally scammed by the ex-time agent Captain Jack Harkness.
Yay.
Also, the first introduction of Captain Jack Harkness in this series of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and that was to resolve the empty child play.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, and welcomed him on board the TARDIS in their travels. And then there they began a quest to recover Jack's memories that were wiped out by the time agency.
Yeah.
Running into a future Mickey Smith sharing an adventure with the Brigadier and ending up with a stowaway companion in Tara Mishra.
Yeah. Sounds very familiar to something else that the whole Jack Harkness backstory.
Oh, don't.
Very recent. Yeah.
Don't.
Just saying. Just saying. Okay.
Backstage. We'll talk about it backstage.
Yeah. We'll save it for after the show. Sent it to Rabbi ages ago. It was fine. Okay. Dan. Anyway. Yeah, Jack. Can I say about Jack? Great character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first impression when you saw them? Was around him on the screen?
Go on, Sadako. I've spoken enough.
For the first time.
Well,
because I thought this is a very good companion for him because more antagonistic or something, or it's someone who challenges the Doctor. The Doctor makes him more better or more sharp, or that was my first impression.
Well, the flirting between him and Rose was pure cringe for me. But I mean, I think that was what Moffat was going for was cringe. Was the whole, when that's everyone goes a bit dumb with their kind of love struck.
Yeah, and Jack flirts with anything that breathes. So, see, I remember just thinking, oh, he'll be fun. He'll be something different.
Yeah.
And he was, and I do think Jack is the reason why, actually, they need to now and again have a different type of companion.
Yeah.
You can't just have a 20-something good-looking woman for every companion. And I think Jack and some others stand out because they break the mold a bit, and I think Jack did.
Yeah. Funny thing is, the first time I saw Jack, I didn't really like him until the final two-parter. But he really matured with time, the character.
Yeah,
with Torchwood. He really did.
I'd agree with you there. Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
See, I can remember I just remember thinking, oh, you're fun. Like, you're cheesy. You are so cheesy, and you know you are. And my little thing with characters is I don't mind a bit of cheese if either the actor or the writer knows it's cheesy. So they have fun with it. And Barrowman is bloody Barrowman, so he just had we know how much of a good time he had. So he was just like having the time of his life, you could tell. Russell was having so much fun writing Jack. But I do think even at the end of his two-parter, when he thinks he's going to die, you sort of see him without the jokes, and you get a hint that there's a bit more to Jack.
Yeah, definitely.
You were quite you've followed Jack's journey on Torchwood, haven't you, Charlotte?
Oh yeah, years ago though. So I feel like it's been ages since I did watch them all, but it's been so many, it's like years.
Yeah. Much stronger character in Torchwood. He really comes out of his shell.
Well, yeah, and he's got the whole immortality thing, which is like perfect for character development.
Yeah, just at the end of the series. Yeah. Just I think he's just a very strong character. It's just a shame, you won't be seeing much of him in the future. But that's going off topic, though. Yeah.
It's also, by the way, the actress who played Gwen Cooper in Torchwood also played a small
Eve Miles.
part. Yeah, Eve Miles. He played also in an episode of the First Doctor, of the Ninth Doctor, in an episode. It was with.
Quite dead.
Yeah. And there's also I read something about it that was the ancestor of Gwen Cooper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Russell wrote that in. That's what I would talk about Russell. There
was already some indication in series 1 with about Torchwood, and you can see that actually in series 2 you can see that very clearly. A reference to Torchwood, and the Torchwood began after series 2, I think.
It was Tooth and Claw. You officially got the name drop.
Torchwood Institute,
The Torchwood Institute. But that's from something for next.
It's Alien, it's ours. Yeah, that's next week.
10th Doctor. But also, we could dive in some deeper in the personality. So we have also already mentioned that after being beaten by losing a war with death, the Ninth Doctor was an emotional incarnation more than other previous incarnations. He had some great sorrow and anger, plagued by the outcome of the last great time war, breaking down or unleashing great rage born from emotionally exhausted when faced with the consequences of the war. But however, when truly outraged with someone, the Doctor would stare at them calmly before bluntly speaking to them about what they had done to upset him. You can see that in some episodes that he has some calm over him. Did you notice that?
He was like a bomb.
Yeah.
He would just be like quiet, and then he would like say, "Oh, you stupid ape," or he'd come out with some lines like that.
A bit Dr. McCoy in a way.
And he had some manic energy. Call it manic energy. I think is the word manic energy. Some what I already said. Some cynical comments.
Yeah.
Especially around humans.
Extremes, yeah.
Yeah.
He'd go from like not gushing because he never really gushed the Ninth Doctor, but he'd be like positive and like you said, show that love for Earth and humanity, and then in the next breath he'd be cursing them.
Yeah.
And you also see some enthusiastic confidence in him,
Yeah.
because you see some moments you see him smile, and you can see on his face that everything's gonna be all right. So he has some trust, some enthusiastic confidence over him.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see that on screen, and his face when he is enjoying things, and you see some challenges. You see him smile because you can really see from I can fix this.
Yeah, there's a little bit of First Doctor in him with that, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of First Doctor, little kind of quips of the First Doctor.
And that scene, really funny. I think about it. When he stands with his arms over, and then when he stands before a big.
Well, the folded arms thing is quite symbolic. It's defensive. It's kind of
Yeah.
He's holding it in, kind of thing, or he's not letting, or he's holding them at a bit of a distance. It's like it's a barrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I think he was one of the nobler incarnations.
Yeah.
In comparison to the other incarnations previous before him.
Well, definitely his end was noble.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Very noble ending.
I don't know. I would like him to 6 in some ways, like a similar kind of volatile, unstable element. And
yes, that's right.
But the difference is though with 9, if he did connect with something, or he sort of had that sympathy with a character, it would show a lot. And I'm just thinking back to, for instance, Jibe, was she called, the tree lady?
Jibe,
yeah. Jibe, like, yes, he was standoffish with her at the beginning, but you could see by the end he was actually starting to connect a bit.
Yeah.
And he didn't look down at her.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. I never feel like the Ninth Doctor, except from like the only one I can think of is Mickey, to be fair, that he would look down upon.
Yeah.
Even some of the there was the Sixth Doctor. I think he would look down more at people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember the broadcast a few weeks ago. We discussed the Sixth Doctor, and when Charlotte was really enthusiastic about him. You know that.
But anyone likes the Sixth Doctor. Well, it's not the worst one though. It's definitely not the worst one now. But there we go.
Yeah, but I understand that this Doctor was more. He had some issues. He had some things. He was some traumatized, but he had some. He was more stable. He was more.
Well,
more positive about things. More confident about things.
Well, the thing is kind of, the whole thing of anger and sorrow. The cutting moment for me that is in the moment in Dalek when he's confronting the Dalek and he's roaring in its eye stalk, and he's literally gloating about, I destroyed you all. Yeah. And then the Dalek and then he has a moment, he turns away and goes, look, and it's like he's gone from that, he's almost shocked at what he said. And he's saying, look, I did it because I had no choice. And he's almost like, he's gone, it's a whole, you could say bipolar. It's, one extreme to the other.
Well, I think in that moment, he's caught up in his emotions.
Yeah.
That is a complete and utter, he's seen a Dalek. He's seen the thing that represents the one big major event in his life. That obviously in context now, because of Big Finish and what the 50th did do, he didn't want to be part of that war. So these beings took him into a war he didn't want to. They made him wipe out his own people and their Daleks on top of all of that. Turn him into a
warrior as well.
And they turned him into a warrior. Like all the things he hates, all wrapped up. And he's seen. Also, you've got to remember, he's seen a Dalek weak. He's seen a Dalek in chains, being like the most pathetic Dalek he's probably ever seen ever. And he is caught up in that moment, and he's just utterly enjoying, and there's no other word for it, he's enjoying having that position over it. But like you said, Sudoku, once he's gone as far as to basically torture it, and I think it's the screams actually, I think that stop him. And that as soon as you look at Chris's face, as soon as the Dalek starts screaming, it hits him. Because what do the Daleks do? They make people suffer.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's doing. And he's in that moment he's then realised, I'm no better than you. I'm basically you.
Yeah.
Is that the episode with the called Dalek?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good one, by the way. And there you can really see what is inside this doctor. But there's some triggers. In that episode, and you can really see where the struggle is in him. What really the point is of why he is now at the moment who he is. It explains a lot. It explains a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, obviously, because I've been watching Classic now. Like, if you compare modern Doctors when it comes to Dalek encounters with Classic, I think Chris set that template for that anger that every other Doctor, bar and we won't mention, it's that anger. It's that pure hatred, and you don't see that in Classic era Doctors with Daleks. Not in the same degree, I don't think. So Chris sort of set that template.
Yeah. I have to say that episode made that series for me. I wasn't really on board until Dalek. The second I saw Dalek and saw that they did the blinding job with the Daleks and showing the Doctor how damaged he was and how he wants to kind of repent and move on. I wasn't really with the series, but that one made it for me.
See, that one I was with it because I was just like, I just loved the concept, and I thought he's a really mysterious figure, the Doctor, and I like mysterious figures, but I think Daleks, that was when Chris clicked with me. I'll put it that way. That's when this Doctor clicked with me.
Same here.
You just sort of went, okay. He's obviously, I didn't understand it fully, but now I sort of term Chris as the PTSD Doctor, and you see it.
It's a good way of looking at him. Very good. That's why I'm really impressed you actually said that. I was like, wow.
Yes.
That's a brilliant way of looking at him.
I know, but like, look at Dalek. Look at how he acts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say before then you were kind of at a bit of a distance from him?
Yeah, I think it was more, I was intrigued. I think that's the word I'd use.
Yeah.
It was he was new. He was this really old figure. You could get that. The last of his race thing, which I know some people hate, but that got me hooked. But it wasn't until Dalek that I was just... And I think what I loved about that scene is you rarely see your so-called heroic figures act that way.
Yeah.
Like, that was... Like I said, he was torturing that thing. He was enjoying it. He was relishing it. And you were just like, God, this is the hero.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was the humans were torturing her. The Doctor was gloating, but it was more, he just wanted to kill it mainly. But he wanted to kind of rejoice in the victory of having defeated it as well. So I think, I don't think it was just doing it gratuitous. He was like, I've got to kill it.
Otherwise, but I think once he realised he had that power, once he realised, God, I can actually do this, that's when the enjoyment. And like I said, because before that, like, if you think about when he starts in that scene, he's banging the door, he's screaming to get out.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. You see the fear, and then he starts to realise, oh, you're in chains.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the last, and I'm the last.
That's it.
And then it clicks, and then it's like, do you know what? For all probably the screams I've heard you make others do. I'm going to make you do it. But that's the moment that I honestly think that's why he pulls back. And that's why you look at the look on Chris's face.
Yeah.
But it isn't literally until Rose basically starkly points out to him where he's at by the end of that episode. And it's also the fact that the Dalek is pathetic in, like, obviously when it starts to power up it's a lot stronger, but for a good chunk of the episode that Dalek is weak, it's pathetic, it's sort of defeated.
Yeah. Then in the end realizes that he's just a soldier without orders.
Yeah, and it's the fact that even a Dalek
Obsolete, yeah.
could, but also I think it's more that even a Dalek could see that violence and pain wasn't the way anymore.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Doctor who's literally, like Rose says, it's not the one stood there with a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's blunt, but sometimes blunt works, and that's why that scene works, because it is blunt.
True. Yeah.
So, he could get self-defensive over how others described him. Definitely telling Rose that he was impressive. And after she called him out for showing off his time-traveling capabilities in End of the World, claiming he was making an effort not to be insulted. And when Rose when Rose rhetorically asked why all the great-looking men disappear from her, and the question if Mickey Smith found him unattractive after Mickey pointed out how handsome Jack Harkness was in Boomtown.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit self-defensive.
Yeah.
Well, that scene in the first TARDIS flight when he's flying into the future, that was so odd. It was like he said, step outside those doors. It's the year 20 million. The Roman Empire's risen again. It's like, and then Rose is like still kind of challenging him. You think you're so impressive, don't you? He's like, are you even going to go out and look, Rose? That's once in a lifetime chance to see it. And,
Oh, yeah, but she probably doesn't believe him at that point. Not fully.
yeah.
She's a strange man with a funny box that's got a bit that's bigger on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, she literally broke down in tears when she first went in the TARDIS, so she's probably still processing.
That was a good moment.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant moment.
Oh yeah, that was the interesting moment, wasn't it? Was when she tells him she asks about Mickey, and then she breaks down, and then like they fly to a certain location to the close to London Eye, and he's lost it, and she brings up Mickey, and like he's forgotten again, and yeah.
Yeah. Poor old Mickey.
Yeah.
In the end, he goes off with Master Jones. I wonder if he's better than the Doctor. She's better than the Doctor.
Yeah.
Martha's probably easier to live with.
Yeah. 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 That's for the next one, is it? It's for next week, Martha Jones.
Martha Jones.
So I'm trying not to say too much this week.
Yeah. Yeah, this Doctor as it took Rose as main companion, and the 10th Doctor at a few three main, but I think Christopher Eccleston did a great job in starting the new era.
Yeah,
he was really.
He was very compelling.
The first time.
He was very compelling. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Compelling presence. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can understand the first time we see it. I was a little bit searching, but after I rewatched the series, is it indeed? I really appreciate what Christopher Eccleston did with the Doctor, with the actor, with the person of the Doctor.
So, Joker, I mean, do you mean like when you say searching? Do you mean like you felt like he's so different to the Doctors before? You were kind of looking for bits of the Doctor in him.
I started Doctor Who and I watched it chronologically So I had the comparison. I did at the moment I knew only the classic era, and so I jumped into the Ninth Doctor. And first time I was really looking for okay, this is a very different. But after we watched the whole series, I said yes, that's really a good doctor, a good doctor to start with for the revival of this show. That's what I mean.
Yeah. They need to go a bit bigger, didn't they, for the revival? Really, they needed someone sort of a bit of presence.
Most fans are fans. It's a pity that Christopher Eccleston didn't appear for another series, but I think his charisma is in the fact that he only appeared in one series. I think the intensity of this Doctor is one series for me. I have an opinion about.
I think you could have got one more.
Yes,
I agree. He wasn't a 3-series one Doctor, no. But I think you could have done 2 with this Doctor.
Yeah, 2, but not one. Not one more. 2. I think 2 probably would be good. Yes.
Oh, See, how did we feel when it was announced that he was leaving, like after episode 2 or something? Because I was shocked. I was a bit.
I have a good memory of this. Maybe because I was young, I didn't really pay attention.
I was like, well, that was a short innings, wasn't it? Huh? Who are they going to replace him with?
Because I'm trying to even just think, what did I feel like watching my first regeneration? Because I came in with basically no knowledge to this show, and I'm trying to I think I just I don't. This is so weird because you'd think that because he was my first Doctor, I'd have a lot of emotions and memories of the regeneration, him going, and I just don't.
Yeah, it was a bit of a fight. But then again, you didn't know about regeneration.
Yes.
On the thing. It's like my first one. I think the first one I really saw kind of live regeneration was McCoy into McGann. Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah, that was the movie.
Yeah, the movie was my first live regeneration I saw.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. We talked about 1996 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know the Doctor could regenerate, but I'd never actually seen one until they thought, wow, that's a real regeneration.
I can remember the effects. Now, I can remember thinking, God, that's a lovely effect, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But like I said, the more emotion one I've got from the new one, and it's not because David Tennant was like a Doctor I really loved, but I think so much of my young memories is Tennant that I remember watching him regenerate.
Barcelona, yeah.
But but that's the weird thing because they had Chris regenerate, and then the clip straight afterwards wasn't in the next episode, was it? It was in like a comic relief night.
Yeah, it was a TARDISode. You gotta watch it on the DVD. Yeah.
And I can remember thinking afterwards, that I think that they should have been. That was a bit of a stupid move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought that should have been in the Christmas special.
They should have put it before. It was just before the Christmas special as a catch-up thing, I think. Yeah. You didn't say it was just too much taken out, and you just didn't know what the hell was happening afterward. Pardon my language. Yeah.
Preferring to remain unnoticed in the background, the Doctor would instead encourage or inspire others into acts of heroism.
Yeah.
However, he was unafraid to confront his adversaries indirectly.
Now, thing I've noticed about in his early stories, like in Rose and End of the World and Dalek, is he does seem to do the reckless thing. He makes the reckless choice or the belligerent choice.
Yeah.
And as a result, he kind of all he does is end up accelerating things so that the villain goes to plan 2, which is just so it almost, in a way, almost kind of exacerbates a tricky situation. And that's because he's still in combat mode, I suppose. He's a
bit like a bull, isn't he, in a china shop?
Yeah.
I'll just do this. Because you sort of think, at the end of Rose, it's like, really? You thought you could just walk in and talk to them and they'd listen to you? And it's just, sort of, in hindsight, you think, God, that was a stupid plan. But like you said, it makes sense for 9 to do that.
Yeah. He's also very much got a little bit of action hero to him as well. I spotted in Rose and End of the World.
Yeah.
The kind of action hero quality in him, that kind of put me off because I always saw the Doctor not doing that and suddenly doing that until
Yeah, but
Dalek.
I think Russell knew that he had to have him be a bit more active.
Yeah.
And that's why I do really love his introduction scene, which is Run.
Yeah.
I think that's such a clever way to introduce the Doctor because he's sort of there and he's gone. And you sort of just go, what? Like, it's just this random bloke's appeared and seems to know more. And then you don't see him for a couple of scenes. And then he comes back. And it's just, it's shock, but it's shock for good, for good. Because it sort of gives you a blast. He's like, run, and then the thing blows up. So you just think, so he's just made the building explode. Okay. And it's just,
I think beguiling, isn't it? It's like,
well, he had that really good comical irrationality though when he used to say, "Welcome aboard, now run." Kind of.
Yeah.
I loved that about his character.
Or even just when like Rose is in the lift and he's like asking her what she thinks, and she's like, "Well, it'd be students," and he's like, "Why?" Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, you're wrong, but good answer." It's just like...
yes.
A more aloof individual, the Nine Doctor could come across as uninterested in details around him, acting out his plans and intentions without informing his allies of his objective. Despite initially wanting to travel alone, indefinitely after the Time War, the Doctor became a lonely man in his solitude, looking particularly crestfallen when Rose rejected an invitation to travel in the TARDIS.
I did laugh at that bit when it was like she kind of passes up the chance and then she kind of looking longingly and says, "Oh God, I shouldn't have said no." And then he comes back and he goes, "Oh, by the way, did I mention also travels in time?"
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. So you can see, and at the one hand, he was all the time he was alone, but he needed to really need company. So he was really glad when she wanted to go with him.
And now, see, when you mentioned that, it immediately put me in mind of the bit in Aliens of London, which I got a lot of. It's where he's like everyone's celebrating because they've discovered aliens and he said, "Look, I'm going to leave you to it. It's his first contact. You've got to do this on your own." And he gives her the key, that's his kind of first show of trust. And then he goes in this TARDIS and he basically later he comes back because he's gone and investigates. All right, I lied. I went in to look in because something was not right about it. Kind of thing.
Completely Rick and Morty's it, yeah.
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 Well, it's curiosity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Curiosity killed the pig.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The soldier, actually. Well.
That scene was so stupid.
I know.
So while he was more adept at noticing the flaws of humanity than his predecessors, the Ninth Doctor still retained the selfless and caring attitude that he carried throughout his previous lives. There's also one thing he has in common with his previous. And never once hesitating to put himself in harm's way to save those around him.
Well, see, the thing is, there's the scene with the pig. I mean, I do remember at the time thinking, well, because he ordered, he commands the military, he's got experience with the military. Now I kept thinking, well, why didn't he yell out, "Look, just don't shoot"? I thought he would think, I can't see this ending well because of how trigger happy the military is, and I did watch that thinking, well, why didn't the Doctor know that it was going to end in tragedy? Why didn't he yell, "Don't shoot" or something?
Why didn't he smuggle the pig out? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to think. There wasn't a lot of time from him going to the lab, finding Tosh, and then working out that it was a pig. And then, from my memory, it feels like it's actually minutes after he's worked it out, the pig gets shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't think he actually had the time. It was just like, oh God, all right, it's a pig, and then he was just trying to work out his next move, and then suddenly he got shot.
Yeah. I did love that about Series 1, though. All the actors and actresses, we can use that word still, if Russell liked them, he'd reuse them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
always loved that about Russell. He'll always reuse a good actor or a good actress.
By searching for, I'm looking for another when one is good already.
Yeah, we had half the cast of Torchwood in the first series.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when he realized that he could reverse the pain and suffering he had encountered with the empty child plague, the doctor became overjoyed, whooping how this just once everybody lived. That was also a very enthusiastic moment, a moment what I really like. He already this once everybody lived. So
Well,
that's a really good expression at that moment, and really a feeling of victory I had as fan.
Well, it's another transitionary moment for him, isn't it? Just like the end of Dalek was. This is also a transitionary moment because he's had like a hopeful moment. It's like it's like when he does say everyone lived. It's not a feigned joy. It's in the hope of kind of faking it till you make it. It's a genuine joy.
You can really see it on his face. You can see
Well,
it in his
You can
expressions.
see, obviously the famous line is "everybody lives," but it's the line that I think it's before that, or it's afterwards. I can't remember where it's placement now, but it's the fact that he doesn't just say "everybody lives." He goes, "just this once,"
Yeah.
and that
just
tells
this
you
once.
all you need to know. That he's basically getting this grasping this bit of joy because he had a lot of losses in that war.
Yeah.
And it's just that, like I said, just this once, Rose, everybody lives. And like I said, and this is what Russell, like Moffat could at times be a bit too like sciencey with his dialogue or a bit too technobabble. But Russell understood that you don't need technobabble. You don't need to have big long speeches.
Right.
You just need a few impactful lines.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because you've also, in that episode, just to link to that moment, you get that moment with Nancy when he compares the British to a mouse that's facing off against the Germans.
Yeah.
And he says, does he compare it to a lion? I can't even think off my head now.
He said it's like a mouse standing up to a lion. That's what he says.
Yeah.
And it's like he says, I don't know about Hitler. Scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it's just that's such a lovely little moment because it's him acknowledging that even though the Time War was vast and probably bigger than anything on our planet we could do with a war, even though the First World War was a mess.
Yeah.
But it's him still saying, I can see that spirit in you guys. And it amazes me.
And it has a lovely callback later when Rose says, like, the doctor taught me that you make a stand, you say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that's, like I said, it's a lovely moment of the doctor mashing his own history with ours. And it's this theme once again of the doctor sort of adopting Earth as his new home. So he's making comparisons.
Yeah, Home from Home. Back to the old I Am form. There's a lot of comparisons with the first Doctor with the Ninth. I've noticed that.
Despite initially coming across as emotionally scarred and melancholy, the Ninth Doctor displayed a fun side from time to time. And you have some funny scene that he's bobbing his head to Soft Cell's Tainted Love in The End of the World. Bobbing his head. That's
on Boom Time when he literally does like a routine almost with Rose and Jack to Mickey when Mickey walks in.
And the scene with that he's enjoying a meal with Nancy and her children. There's also some humor. Suddenly he sits on the table with Nancy and his and her children friends.
It's like he's saying to them, "Look, I'm looking for a blonde. Like I didn't just wake up with a preference. Like a specific girl I know and I'm looking for."
And he is having a dance with Rose Tyler, and the Doctor dances.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, I actually really liked his dynamic with Nancy. I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
That was almost Nancy for me as a companion who wasn't, if you know what I mean. The perfect.
Oh, interesting.
We didn't get.
Yes, that could probably be a good companion. You can with that character you could develop that character or discover or explore that character as a fan on screen.
Yeah.
Preferring to be in the present, the Ninth Doctor would make decision in the heat of the moment, focusing more on emotion rather than logic. That's also a characteristic I noticed. That he, in the moment he is needed, there's some decision to make. There's some action to make. He's focusing more on emotion rather than logic.
Yeah.
For instance, for the Seventh Doctor was really a tactic one with logic, but this Doctor is more emotional one,
Impulsive, yeah.
more reacting on emotions, and instead of see the situation and then with logic solve the things.
Yeah.
It's similar to Tom Baker here, that kind of sometimes you have that rash impulsiveness as well, but like it's kind of more on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With Tom, it was more like a childish impulse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But with 9, it's just, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. The child like Dr. Tom.
Yeah.
He was also prone to falling for minor deceptions or overlooking obvious details in some episodes. However, he confessed that he downplayed his intelligence on occasion to lure his opponents into a false sense of security to have then exposed their plans to him.
So, which episodes are these?
That is from Prose Clockwise Man.
Oh yeah, I've read that some time ago. I did follow the books when they came out. Like I was energized to get back into the show again because I was intrigued by the Time War stuff, and I wondered if we were going to learn more about it. So I snapped up the books. I'm very vague on the details now about them. But I do need to read the Clockwise Man again. But I remember liking it. I remember liking the books. I enjoyed the books, but
more aloof than other incarnation, Ninth Doctor failed to consider any discomfort the TARDIS translation circuit would cause, and was also willing to temporarily allow the Geld to occupy dead human bodies, likening it to recycling. You see that in the Quiet Dead.
Yeah.
For example. So there's also
it's a very Hartnellian moment when he tells Rose, look, it's a different morality, get used to it or go home. And that's the kind of that's the thing Hartnell would say. He would say, like, these are the rules, like my house, my TARDIS, my rules. Don't like it, there's a door, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's also some funny things to say about the Ninth Doctor and Jackie Tyler. The Ninth Doctor did not do a domestic, which led to tensions between him and Jackie Tyler. In many occasions, for example, Aliens of London, World War III, Father's Day, Parting of the Ways. You can see also that the tensions between him and Jackie Tyler.
This is where the grump of me comes on. I got a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jackie Tyler just saw too much of her, I think.
Jackie came across to me as you can tell when a writer has based a character off somebody they know.
Yeah.
And it came across to Russell's either know somebody's mum who's like that, or he's got females in his family that are like that. Because just the way she was written, it just came across so like he was basing it off somebody. The sort of having to be hard because single mum, always having a sort of word, never letting somebody else get the last word. The sort of defensiveness of Rose and the protectiveness.
She's a battle actor.
Oh yeah, God, yes. I always remember even when I was first watching that, I was like, that's a battle axe. Russell's basing that off a battle axe, he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a real life character, wasn't it?
Oh, by the way, there was Oh, there's this rather loud cartoon I've seen a fan do. Where he's done a perfect parody of Jackie Tyler, and like I don't know if I should repeat this, but it's like it does a reenactment of the scene where she offers, like she's trying to invite, like she first meets Eccleston, and she's like,
Oh, she flirts, yeah.
yeah, and then in this version, like in the cartoon, it's like, want a trip with me to Shack City, population Germany.
He also he resisted speaking of his past to others. When it came to what is your background or past, he was always resisting speaking of his past, and he didn't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it, and he would feel sorrow instead of nostalgia when seeing aspects of his past.
Yeah, because when Rose is asking him about his people, his world, it's like, oh, what does it matter? It's like you wouldn't have heard the world, like it's some distant world you wouldn't have heard of, and it's like to him it doesn't matter. But the more defensive he gets, the more she's like, look, just she, and it's like she's touching at a nerve with him, and he's just he can't,
Well, yeah, because from her perspective, she's like, right, I don't know you. You transported me onto this planet. I don't have a clue what's going on. I need you to at least just tell me a bit of something about yourself. So it's like consent to her. And because the Doctor has not had to do social niceties for God knows how long at this point, he doesn't pick that up. He just sees it as her asking too many questions.
When you said about the standoffishness and like he only gradually let Rose in, that confrontation was kind of what he was afraid of. He was afraid she was going to bring the issue of what happened.
And that's why you can see it's a big thing for him to let Rose travel with him, because it is inviting another presence who's going to ask questions just naturally.
Yeah.
And it's like he's not prepared at that moment, but then you can, for all the standoffishness in that conversation, he almost shows that he does sort of understand that he needs to sort of almost gently let her sort of get used to it by doing the phone thing, which is so she can phone her parents, phone her mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's him sort of saying, without saying it, I'm sorry. So that's the thing with Nine. He does understand these social cues. He's just rusty. He's just having to relearn a lot of things.
Like us after lockdown, yeah.
Yeah, basically us after lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's also in a way he's trying to deflect the topic completely from, like he's trying to, so he hopes if he does this, then she won't bring up Gallifrey again.
Oh, it probably is a bit of that as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think if you look at the fact that he is so prickly and then he does something that's quite sweet almost by letting her phone home. Yeah. And it's such like that shows as well that I think in this Doctor you see the thing with the Doctor in general, but it's just heightened, which is he understands humans.
Yeah.
But he just, how do I word this? At the core he understands humans. He just can't translate that.
Yes.
So at the core he understands you need to phone home because you're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he won't say that. He'll just be like, right, I'll just whiz your phone and here you go.
Yeah.
So, despite turning down explicit romantic advances, the Doctor would engage in some friendly flirting. That's with Rose then, and
Jabe as well.
Yeah, you can see it also in some extent.
I take that back. Jade was kind of the more. Jade was kind of leading the come-ons, wasn't she? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like she was quite persistent in her interest in him.
Oh God, yeah. As soon as she scanned him, she was like, "Right, I'm having you."
She's very revered by him as well. Wow, lost the Time Lord. Wow.
There was also Ninth Doctor also displayed a certain level of childish joy. You can see also that a little bit in the Fourth Doctor Tom Baker, some childish joy. You can compare it with Tom Baker in some sense. So
yeah,
I think And when it came to toying with people such as addressing them by the wrong name, insulting their intelligence or subjecting them to unnecessary humiliation. Some in the image of London, for example,
You mean-
the long game. Is there
mean-
wrong?
So you mean like when he's like calling Mickey Ricky deliberately just to
Yeah,
annoy
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some childish joke of some.
That's
Yeah.
it's being really petty, I thought.
Yeah. And
But
so
then again, didn't the first Doctor call him Chesterton Chesterfield?
yeah, that's
So
right.
there-
That's a smoking or something. Or
Yeah.
smoke.
Yeah.
Chesterfield, yes.
Yeah.
Chesterfield. According to Rosie, he liked to insult species as a whole when in moments of stress in the Doctor dances. And he could often make dry jokes, whether it was cynical, to diffuse the tension of a situation. In almost all the episodes of the series one, you can see that, by the way, that he makes dry jokes to diffuse the tension of a situation. So he can soften it a little bit. That's why he also is incapable of what I said earlier. He reacts emotionally, and because he can diffuse the tension of a situation, he can more act emotional, stable emotion. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It's his way to solve the problems he faced.
Yeah.
Also, the Doctor expressed a keen interest in history, once claiming he traveled in time specifically so he could see history unfold in the age of London.
Yeah.
And he was also a fan of Charles Dickens' work.
Oh yeah.
And he had the fondness for art as well, taking Rose to see the original Mona Lisa at the Oriole. This is the comic. And considered himself an admirer of geohacking rather than a critic. And he also found pleasure in playing Mickey's video games, even bonding with him over them.
Now I know which one this was. This was Winner Takes It All.
Yeah.
Basically, it's this. If anyone doesn't know, it's the story where there's this alien race that are using this. They're basically working with this video game company to kind of program. Like they're selling this game, and like they actually it involves them basically being trained to fight and being brainwashed by the game to I forgot what the plan was, but I do know there's like when the Doctor's looking through his game collection through Mickey's game collection, like there's a game called Bad Wolf among them, and that was kind of there's the Bad Wolf reference.
Yeah.
And he also voiced an affection for Hugs. Hugs?
For who? For what?
For Hugs. Hugs.
Oh, Hugs. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see that in the long game and gave them out to comfort others. And you can see that in Father's Day, Parting of Ways. He really likes to hug even someone. Some way to feel good about it, or to comfort them, or when in moments of joy he hugs people. So that is very expressive, and also in that way. So more than other Doctors, he's more of giving a hug, giving some encouragement, or he's so in joy, in a moment of joy, he hugs someone. So it's a warm side of the Doctor, I noticed. Also, yeah.
Well, in that episode, he specifically says like that his philosophy on holidays is throw the guidebook away and just do act spontaneously. Like, you know, don't follow the rule book, just experience things, kind of thing, firsthand.
And he also disliked dealing with people who try to deny the extraordinary or unexplainable, even after they had witnessed it, believing that they only wasted his time for their denial. You can see that in the Quiet Deaths and the Long Game, also.
Because he was very disappointed that that Charles Dickens was so narrow-minded about the prospect of the supernatural.
Yeah.
And he was also a vocal fan of bananas, calling them a good source of potassium.
Yeah.
Potassium.
Yeah. Place the factory of Banana Grove, yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is then it was sort of charming with Chris, and then it seemed to be all the other doctors had to randomly have something to do with fruit after fruit. It's like, wow.
And he happily accepted turkey while dining with young orphans. And ordered steak and chips while dining with Margaret Blaine for a last meal. So I did like some nice food. And I also enjoyed lemon gingerbread.
Well, now that dinner with Margaret, that was probably the sign that he'd grown as the Doctor, because he was willing to kind of have a calm discussion with the enemy rather than just being his usual belligerent self. He'd mellowed by that point. You could kind of see.
Yeah, and Margaret was basically throwing barbs, like properly calling him out during that scene. And like you said, he doesn't react to it. He just sort of listens. Because Boomtown is sort of one of those episodes in Series 1 that I love, and I feel like a lot of people ignore because it's just before the finale, and it's a bit of a bottle episode. But I think if you look at Margaret and how the Doctor acts, but I think especially that scene when she's talking about, oh, you must have felt like a god, and she's like saying all probably the things he's thought secretly or quietly to himself, and it's just such a clever scene.
It's when she says, "Look, I showed mercy to someone. I was going to kill this woman, this reporter who was onto me, and I didn't." And it says,
and his response is telling when he goes, "Yes, you saved one person, but that doesn't mean anything," is what he's basically telling her.
And she says to him, "Only a killer could know that."
That's what I mean. Yeah, she's properly calling him out, and he listens. But it's like as soon as she brings that point up about her sparing the woman, he sort of says, "Well, you've done it one day. You might." I think I can't remember if he used that line, but he goes, "You might see a little girl or somebody might smile at you, but you're still you. It isn't." And I think he's talking about himself almost in this moment, because he's basically saying one good act doesn't wipe away all your sins. And I think he's almost, without realizing, projecting by saying, I might do all these things about adventures and try and save the earth and do these things, but it's not going to wipe away my past.
Well, because see, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe he was thinking about like killers he'd known himself. Like maybe he was thinking of the Master or other tyrants he'd known who would maybe. That's why I that was my take.
The thing that made me think he was talking a bit about himself is because the idea of mercy.
Yeah.
And I think mercy is very much a term or an idea you'd find in war. Mm-hmm. More than like a master or something like that. I think because you do hear, like, obviously in the First World War, there's that famous story of on Christmas Day they just did a football match.
Yeah.
And like that's that idea of in war you can have these moments when you don't sort of follow orders, or you just remember you're both human on either side of your conflict, and you can have that shared experience. But it's like, think about that football match. Yes, for one day or for 1 hour or however long, they weren't enemies. They were just soldiers playing football.
Yeah.
But the next day they had to go back shooting at each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's to do with him when he's talking about mercy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Now I remember the Blackadder sketch.
Yeah.
It was not offside.
Well, this war started because someone shot an ostrich.
Yeah, because he was hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Blackadder explains like to Baldrick how the wars was meant to be prevented by the combined alliances would make it so that no side could commit an aggression without dragging the other sides into war, and that would prevent your everlasting peace. But we are in a war, isn't we? Yeah, there was a tiny snag with the alliance. What was that? It was bollocks.
Good old Blackadder, yeah. Anyway.
Also, the Ninth Doctor liked to have his coffee with just milk and took his tea with 2 sugars. And while Rose claimed to her mother that the doctor drank, he did not enjoy wine, spitting what he had drank back into his glass after a toast.
Yeah.
So he was not so, but in comparison to John Pertwee's doctor, sometimes he take a glass and really enjoyed the wine.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the Ninth Doctor displayed a huge sense of authority against his enemies, willing to let them die when he felt it justified their actions. Claimed that everything had its time and that everything eventually ended, but was willing to use diplomacy when necessary. And he showed a particular dislike for those who tried to justify their actions by saying they were only following orders, telling the female programmer she had lost the right to even talk to him when she tried to use that excuse in Bad Wolf.
Yeah, the Nuremberg defense, as they call it. Yeah.
Well, the thing about...
Yeah?
Well, you mentioned the thing with Cassandra. I mean, the main thing there is he's brought her back to face justice, and she's already gloating, you know what, I can, I'm rich, I'm powerful, I'm influential, I can buy the lawyers that will get me off scot-free for this. And, just by redefining what murder is and what people are. And so he knows, like, she's going to get away with it. And that's why I think when he realizes she's dying, he shows no mercy. He's like, well, she was never going to get justice anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's her greed. You can see that has really, like, it's not the fact, it would have been bad enough if she would have killed all the people on the ship. But the fact that her reason is basically she wanted more money.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you think money's more important than life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because of his pragmatic approach to situations, he would at times brush off individual deaths to focus on the task at hand, and would even encourage others to do the same and mourn later. But however, while the Doctor showed the ability to move past the deaths of those around him in the heat of the moment, he acknowledged lives lost as soon as he could. So he was first from doing things, and then you can mourn about it. I think it's mainly because the result of the previous time war that he is somewhat hardened, but after the action he could be emotional.
Well, it's like he's kind of juggling this constant bargaining of lives saved versus lives lost, and it's like he's hoping that if he saves enough, he'll make up for the lives lost. But even as he's in the action, like people are dying, and he has to kind of focus on the goal of winning.
Yeah. And also, you can see with other doctors also, but there's also a voiced hatred of guns, but he was willing to use them in drastic situations, like for instance in Dalek or Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
We already mentioned that case, and
well, see, where did he have a distaste of guns? Because I feel like this was the Doctor who kind of had just said goodbye to that. He said, "Look, you know what? I fought a war. I'm used to holding guns now." So was it in the books or the audios?
No. Yeah.
I mean, I know he was probably quite cynical about UNIT still, because he was still horrified about the fact that Pig died.
Yeah.
Pig got killed.
I think it was Pertwee's Doctor was the first, wasn't it? Really, was really kind of anti-gun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean more. Yeah, but I mean in this particular era. Do you mean more the fact that at the end, when is last time he uses a gun when he's holding the Satellite 5 people hostage, and like he's saying they're saying don't shoot, and then he throws the gun at them and says, I was never going to shoot, you idiots, kind of thing.
Yeah. But because he had some violent background, that's more. I think maybe I misinterpreted, but I thought the Ninth Doctor was more hatred because of his past, because of the Great Crime War, that he doesn't want to use violence anymore. I can have it wrong. I don't know.
I think we saw what we did to the wall, didn't we? In the Day of the Doctor, he went and shot Gareth falls no more into the wall with a rifle and blows up a Dalek.
No, Joker. I think that's more with that. I think that's more of a Tennant trait. I think maybe Tennant was more the anti-gun one. Like he was.
Okay.
I think Tennant was more verbal about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
I've just been racking my brains right now, and I can't think of any actual lines that he sort of said about not liking guns.
Was very much like that.
But
so what'd you say?
Tennant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say Tennant more.
Yeah, it was more Tennant, but I think the Doctor was still a bit anti-violent. Well, in a way, to a certain extreme.
So this Doctor was morally outraged when the space pig was killed for looking threatening, and when in reality it was only acting out of fright.
Yeah.
And completed its dying moments by stroking its snout. So he has really some empathy.
Yeah.
And he likewise became upset when he learned that victims of the anti-child plague had been left to be forgotten. So you can see really that he is moral behavior in this.
Yeah.
And despite that he is the less great time war hardened himself, but at the same time he was really some empathy in this series.
Well, see, when that thing with the empty child, when when Nancy's like, "Don't let the child in, don't let it touch you," and like and it's like, it's not nice being the only child left out of the group, and I say, you know what that's like to you, and he said, yes, I do. So it's like it's a kind of hint maybe at his childhood or his being the outsider.
Yeah, being the last of his kind.
Well, I thought maybe it was hinting at something about his actual childhood.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah,
I saw a little clip of it where we're in with Capaldi's Doctor.
Yeah.
While the Doctor never shied away from the danger of his adventures, he voiced an admiration for the lives of Sarah Clark and Stuart Hoskins. I was shocked when they suggested they weren't important in the situation at hand in Father's Day.
Yeah.
He
says I never had a life like yours where you just random chance and romance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the other interesting thing about that episode is that he knows that Pete has to die to put reality right, but he hides it from Pete. He says, "Look, I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm going to," like, even though he's like spent the whole story like berating Rose for saving Pete, Rose's father. He doesn't say, "Look, he has to die to put it right." He never says that, and he right at the end he tries to hide that from Pete and from Rose.
Yeah, I think that's though his science and his logical brain is saying this man has to die, but I think he just doesn't want to be the condemner. He doesn't want to be responsible. Yeah. And actually, no. Do you know what I think it is? I think he just doesn't want to be responsible for another death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 10th Doctor, David Tennant, held a somewhat low opinion of his immediate predecessor, considering him to be violent due to being born in battle. You can see that during his end. So there's a description of the 10th Doctor of the 9th Doctor here. So, and he says that his previous incarnation is violent due to being born in battle. So that's his self evaluation of the previous incarnation. So this tells about what he thinks about his previous incarnation.
Yeah.
But the 11th Doctor seemingly harbored no such ill feelings. That's interesting. 10th Doctor had more hard feelings about the 9th than the 11th Doctor.
Yeah, because just to clarify, what you're talking about is when 10 when in the episode Journey's End when the Doctor's cloned by that hand, and it's like that hand was from the newly regenerated 10th Doctor, so there's still the memories of 9 fresh in him, so he's like quite close to closer to 9 than 10, if you know what I mean. And he's after he destroys the Daleks, it's like the Doctor, the real Doctor, treats the clone as a proxy for the 9th Doctor.
Yeah, and he hates him. He really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sanctimonious git.
So
The only thing I didn't like about that scene was, like I said, I majority of that scene I really loved. The line that sort of did my head in, it was just, which is weird because I said you can be blunt, but for me this was too much telling when he basically said, he's me before meeting you. And I was like, yes, Russell, we all knew that. You didn't have to literally say it in the script.
Yeah.
I feel like he was dumbing it down a bit.
Yeah, it was just a bit like, there was enough lines and we got it, that it was just a bit, you don't have to literally spell it out like that.
So what we also see in series 1 is that the Doctor cared very deeply about Rose Tyler, and being reluctant to put her in danger, was even willing to let a Dalek loose on Earth to keep her safe in Dalek. And when the Daleks invaded Satellite 5, the Doctor sent her back home to protect her and deliberately absorbed time vortex energy in her to save her life. And knowing that he would regenerate afterwards, and while others would mistake them for lovers, the Doctor would deny such a claim when it was made.
Well, see, the thing with the Dalek, that's more... See, I don't know if it's necessarily that he was risking like the Dalek getting out and killing others, but I think he was thinking, I've got to make another plan. If she's alive, then I need to, I think maybe he had in mind of, if there's a way I can destroy the Dalek, if there's a chance to save her, then I will do it. And if I can destroy the Dalek, then I can save her and I can save the planet. But he's like, well, do I risk the possibility of the town Salt Lake City being the next on the Dalek hit list, or do I say, well, look, I'm going to, or do I know certainly if I don't let her out, that Dalek's going to kill Rose right away, and and I'm not going to have time to make a plan to save her.
See, I just think it was, he thought he'd lost her once.
Yeah.
And you saw Chris's acting when he saw the door go down and he just heard exterminate. Yeah. And you could just see he was utterly just broken again. And you can understand because he just got a companion back. He was just starting to maybe touch the man he used to be before. And obviously, maybe the romantic feelings that were always sort of under the surface a bit, but never fully explored in this incarnation. Mm-hmm. And then she's alive again. And you just, I think this is the bit of the selfishness coming through. We just can't go through that again. Even though, yes, it's a Dalek, but he just can't lose her.
Yeah.
And there's also one thing that the Doctor says about the TARDIS, and he says about the TARDIS that it was a magnificent time ship, and even calling it the best ship in the universe in Boomtown. That's the only time when the Doctor says something about his TARDIS in more details. So there's so much more about so much stuff about his Doctor. When he initially believed him to be no more than Rose's stupid boyfriend and claimed that he was choking on his words, asking for his help, the Doctor nonetheless entrusted Mickey Smith with a computer virus to delete all mentions of him from the internet. It's also very interesting, and even guiding him along the TARDIS after his help in defeating the Slitheen family, and defended his honor in front of Rose by claiming to refuse Mickey entry after he turned down the offer.
Now, see, the bit at the beginning, that was, you mentioned about the choking on his words to ask for help. That annoyed me because it was like, well, hang on, this is an urgent situation. You shouldn't be choking on your words. It should be just, look, I need your help. It's just all. Why is the Doctor being the petty, difficult one in this? in a, it used to be that the Doctor would be dealing with a petty figure,
Yeah.
and that annoyed me in the whole,
Yeah.
And then when it came to children, the Ninth Doctor generally treated them kindly, and because he didn't himself, but also when Blonde reverted back into an egg, the Sledine, he rather than send her to execution, Doctor decided to give her to a new family, to start a new life.
Yeah.
And believing the new child had a chance to make the things better. There's also a nice scene, an interesting scene. So it give Blonde a chance to do things on the other way. He also cared for baby Rose Tyler. That was in the alternate when the things went wrong in Father's Day.
Yeah.
And however, he could grow irritated with children who misbehaved, and once had to wrestle a television remote control out of a little boy's hand. Though the boy at least had a laugh about it in Aliens of London. So by the way, there's also noticed there are many children in the series 1.
There was also the little houseboat who sprayed Bad Wolf on his TARDIS, and like later he gets the kid to wash it off, and he says, "Okay, thanks. Now beat it, or I'll have you do that again. I'll have you."
Baby making.
Yeah. Also, the Ninth Doctor held a deep hatred for the Daleks, and we also discussed that. But he was also fearful of them. There's some tension.
But at the same time, towards the end, he does pity them at the same time when he says, like, when he realizes that they're converted humans, he says, "You hate your own existence." Like, is that kind of moment of pity as well?
So there's enough about the Daleks. So we're still all got some. I want to do something. I want to do something. I want to have a top 5 stories of this series to want to talk about.
See, this is going to be hard because he only had one series.
Yeah. You got 13 to choose from.
Yeah. Because we have discussed. So I have made a top 5 about series 1, and you can also agree or not agree about that. But my number 5 story of this series is Father's Day, because of the complexity of the story and also the intense emotions in that story. And you see that the reaction of a Rose and that she is her father, and then she saved his life, and then the things go wrong, and at the end we know all what happened, and the emotions in that story is make me think that's a really good episode. See, this is for me number 5, I think. What do you think about this story?
I'd
probably put it on my list as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
My number 4 is Bad Wolf. Number 3 is, of course, we mentioned Dalek. I can imagine that some people have had this one on number 1 because of they like Daleks, but this is my number 3. Number 2 is the series finale, Parting of the Ways.
Yeah.
And my number 1 is
let me guess.
The 2-part story. Yeah, let me guess.
Empty Child, Dr. Dances.
Yes, there's a 2-part story. That's my number 1.
Yeah.
There's so much in this, and also just so Dr. Jack and Rose and all the things what happened. So yeah. Empty Child is a much mentioned reference in this live stream. So, what do you think of the episodes? What rating would you give on the series?
I'm literally going through stuff in my head right now. I'm literally chucking out stuff like, no, that's not top 5. No, that's not top 5. That's the way of doing it.
Okay.
So, I didn't like Long Game.
Mhm.
Like,
me neither.
it was a clever core idea. I just didn't like the way it was done.
Yeah.
Even though people love The Unquiet Dead, that's never been one I've loved in this series.
Oh, I like that. I like that one. Okay.
Yeah, see, I seem to be in the minority for that, but it's just it just doesn't click, and it's not top 5. It's not a bad episode.
Okay, right, fair enough.
Quite a big fan of Boomtown, actually. Well, like Boomtown.
Oh yeah,
Well,
see, that'd be my top 5.
Yeah.
Bit of a doozy machiner ending though.
Yeah. I know,
Oh yeah,
just
I don't think like it's one of the few times basically a villain comes back and you basically have a proper character piece about it.
yeah.
Which is why I love it. Yeah, so see, I'm probably going to struggle to put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm probably best just naming what my 5 would be. So Boomtown will be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Rose will be in there because I think it had to do so much and it was so clever and it just did the tone perfectly.
Yeah.
See, I'll go for the second part, the 2-parter, because I did prefer the second part.
For which one?
The finale, Part of the Waves. Then.
Part of the Waves, yeah.
Yeah. So mine would be all 3 of the Dalek episodes would be mine, and probably Boomtown and End of the World.
Yeah, see, Dalek's probably one. So I'm thinking, do I have the Anti-Child 2-parter, or what have I got left after that?
Yeah.
Or Father's Day?
Yeah, I Empty Child 2-part was good, but it just never appealed to me. I don't know why.
I'm just thinking, I'm missing slots now, because we had 13, didn't we, in this series?
Yeah.
13.
Yes, 13.
Yeah.
There was the End of the World, Unquiet Dead, Alien to London, World War 3. Definitely not on my list.
Sorry. Aliens. I get another thing. I don't know how he managed to basically have a Iraq War critique hidden beneath the story about farting aliens. So how on earth did he manage that? But yeah, it's not top 5.
No, I just didn't like the rubberish Slovene. I mean, I know he's going to try to go back to basics, but rubber monsters.
That's the thing. I thought the designs were really good.
Yeah,
it was just the voices and the farting.
Yeah,
I just thought it was. I just found it really dumbed down, that one.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like, it was like okay, like there's making the show kind of popular again, populist, and then just being really just.
Yeah, I think Russell could do camp, but that was a bit too much camp, wasn't it?
It was a bit too much for the kiddie winks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so probably what I'm left with is the Empty Child 2-parter, but which one would I have out those episodes? Probably the Doctor Dances then.
Yes. But I agree with the Long Game. That's, for me, is that the last one. The Long Game is not my most favorite episode.
No.
Well, for me, it's Dalek's probably number 1. The Unquiet Dead number 2. Father's Day. I got 2 left. I don't know. Maybe. See, I have mixed feelings about the finale, but we'll get into that, I suppose. So, I don't know.
It's almost the same. My top 5. In principe, and in most people here have the same episodes. Yeah, not so surprised. But it was really the series 1 was really really the foundation for the Doctor's after. We further discussed the habits and quirks. We know all this Doctor for the word fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we should probably talk about the finale though, shouldn't we? The way the Doctor goes.
Yeah, we discuss after.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah. He had some distinctive Northern English accent.
Every planet has a north.
Oh yes.
He would at times promote his action with the phrase "for my next trick."
Yeah.
in Parting with the Ways, Dave the Doctor. Exclaim, give the man a medal.
Yeah.
When they're celebrating positive outcome. Or creating cleverness. This is some compliments in words. some really nice habit, quirk you can call it. And during interactions with new people, the Doctor often uttered that it was nice to meet them. Nice to meet them.
Very colloquial, very kind
Yeah.
of used quite kind of very street patois, didn't he?
Yeah.
Northern patois.
Yeah.
Tell you what, nobody up north calls it that, Sudoku.
Oh, okay. What do they call it?
Just talking.
Oh, okay, right.
While his previous incarnations were rarely heard uttering curse words, the Ninth Doctor used minor curses more freely. I think it was the time, the other time, 2005.
Well, at least he never said Belgium. I was like,
And for when being critical of human nature, the Ninth Doctor would call humans stupid apes.
yeah.
in Rosican, the first story already, stupid apes, and on one occasion brainless sheep in Bad Wolf. So he was altijd in that way. He was sometimes a little bit pissed off.
Yeah.
And also the Ninth Doctor had a habit of folding his arms. You can see it almost in every episode. You can see that, and especially as he leaned back on his shoulder. So he's a little bit observing, and he's folding his arms, and he leans on with his back with his shoulder to to something.
Yeah.
And he also would keep his hands in jacket pockets or held behind his back. So he was that was his manner of observing things and thinking about things, and one of his habits. And he would also grin when pleased with something. You see the grin on his face. So one of Quirks, and or if he found something funny, he did that. Or trying to look welcoming, or explaining a situation, or admiring someone. You can see on this what I said earlier. And those non-verbal spoke many things. Non-verbal.
Yeah.
And he would roll his eyes when annoyed, and then also a habit of lounging when sitting down, usually propping himself up on an arm.
He was on his feet a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when he stutters and had nothing to do, the Doctor would fiddle with a ball in his hands. In the end of the world, on Father's Day.
Yeah.
So all things I've noticed with this Doctor, what happens in Quirks.
It's fond of jiggery poker as well.
Yeah. The skills. The Ninth Doctor held a commanding presence that a gift for leading others. In Father's Day, Dr. Dennis's Parting of the Ways, and even those initially hostile towards him.
Even in Alien to London, when he lands in that military facility, and the soldiers surround him, like he's like, and he goes defense baton Delta, and everyone immediately follows because he's got that natural authority.
Yeah. And then, as such, he disliked it when he was interrupted doing a monologue, or when others attempted to replace his authority in Boomtown.
Oh, yeah, there's that famous line. Excuse me, do you mind not farting while I'm saving the world?
Yes. That's the one.
Loved that line.
Right?
I bet Chris loved delivering that line.
And he could also convince others when he was needed as a leader for the benefit of survival in bijvoorbeeld instances in the Dalek, and he was able to successfully order the victims of the empty child to go to the room as if he was an angry parent.
Yeah.
So he could be a little
Well, that was a shrewd. That was a shrewd thing, that wasn't it? It was like think like a child. The child thinks that you're his mummy. So what does a parent do? Go to the room, kind of thing.
And he could also be effectively intimidating with just a stare. In World War III, in Long Game, Bad Wolf. So, and however, he did not seem as skilled at holding audiences, being heckled with stepping in for William Shakespeare on stage in comic. And unafraid of fighting, Doctor was skilled in close combat and showed a great deal of strength and agility, being able to rip parts of artificial beings, kick open a locked door in a quiet deck, avoids the attack of three. Yes, that were some skills about this doctor. Also displayed the psychic abilities, but all the doctors all have. But when we discussed the last episode of the Ninth Doctor, the parting of the ways.
Yeah.
What can we want to say something about that episode? About what you can say about it.
See, the thing for me is I feel like it might have been better if the story was not quite as one-sided. Like if because when the Daleks are advancing, like they try various defenses, and I would have thought it might have been up the tension if occasionally the defenses worked. Like eventually, like if the laser defenses worked, and then the Daleks countered, and then there was that rather than the Daleks kind of just being indestructible all the way through, and then I probably would have cut back on the Earth interruptions. Like I do like the scene in the chip shop where Rose says, like, you make a stand, but I did feel like I always thought, well, I want to see more of the action on the station, and I kept thinking, like, wouldn't the kids want to see more of the action on the station than the chip shop stuff? But
yeah,
but
back to be a bit Hollyoaks, yeah.
Sorry, so, go on.
Yeah, but I think the Rose stuff was a palate cleanser for a reason, because it was her going back to normal, and she just couldn't stand that.
Yeah.
She'd been to so many planets, she'd seen so many things, and this idea of now my life is I'm sat in a chip shop with my mum.
Yeah.
It's like it was just her being sort of shooken and being brought down to earth very harshly, and it was meant to sort of almost be like it's almost what Russell basically thought. I know he didn't write School Reunion, but that sort of thing of what he said about Sarah Jane, when she's like, you can't just go back to normal once you've travelled. And I think this was him starting to show that, or how he obviously viewed with companions that they would struggle, or it would be boring or it'd be mundane to go back to normal life. And that's what those sort of scenes were. And I get what you mean by the Daleks and the Doctor and it being very one-sided. I'm not going to deny it is.
Yeah.
But I think he wanted basically the Doctor to be transported back to the war. That was the whole point of the setup with the Daleks. And it all sort of I'm not going to deny it's contrived, but he wanted him to have that I am a coward moment. Yeah. You could see basically everything was built in that episode to get to that moment, because it was the Doctor then coming full circle and saying, in this time, I'm not going to be the person to press the button. I'm going to just let stuff go the way it's supposed to. And it was him Because a lot of people sort of, without obviously going too much into it, obviously a current Doctor basically had the same choice. And I saw a lot of people when that happened say, well, how come you didn't moan when it was 9 doing it? And you're like, well, no, 9 doing it was completely different. Because it was him just getting over the war, basically being chucked back into it. That's why him saying, I'm a coward any day. Oh, I can't remember the exact line, but him saying, yes, I'm a coward. Mm-hmm. That's why that's almost powerful by admitting that. Yeah. Except from just a doctor going, oh, do you know what? I'll just let this random bloke die and then I'll run off.
Yeah. But I see, like, when I first saw it, my first thought was, well, I didn't quite understand why the Doctor was refusing to press the button, and I also kept thinking, well, why aren't the Daleks blasting the button so that he can't change his mind? And I kept expecting him to change his mind because I was like, well, but I mean, I know there was the thing about condemning the humans on Earth, and so it's like he was kind of like admitting the Daleks were going to win and he was going to leave it unfinished, kind of thing.
What I forget it was about this story concluded the Bad Wolf story arc. During the whole series, there was a mention of Bad Wolf, and we see in this series finale we see what or who Bad Wolf is. Spoilers. We know who Bad Wolf is.
The big bad
but
wolf,
it also concluded a mailed story arc about the Doctor's identity and revealed to newcomers that the Time Lords could regenerate, and saw the regular departures of actors Eccleston and Berman. So during the series, we already knew that he was gone after series 1, but this one was the last one of Chris.
Yeah. So, did anyone have any theory about what Bad Wolf was when they were watching before the reveal? I mean,
nah, because I was at that age that I didn't try and work out stuff. I'm gonna be blunt. I was just like, I'll watch these episodes. I'm having fun. I didn't theory craft or sort of do the whole what does this mean thing of a fan. I just was like, oh, this obviously means something, and it's gonna get to a point. Let's see what that point is.
I didn't spot one until Series 4 with the bees, because by that time you knew Russell was doing it. I did not have a clue Russell was putting these subliminal messages into the show.
Now, see, my theory was that it was going to be, in some way, I thought the finale was going to be set in prehistoric Earth, and that we were going to realize that Bad Wolf was this race memory of a particular, word that was used at the beginning or something.
Yeah.
I was going to ask something then. No, it's gone now. So it's Rose who basically saves the Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically the Rose, because she's full of the time vortex, having the power to reach back and sort of duplicate this word, to sort of follow them along and sort of, because it doesn't really guide them anywhere. It's just sort of this mystery almost that she puts in the universe for them to solve.
Well, do you think in a way it's a message for her that she can save the Doctor? Because she's about to, when she the final time she sees Bad Wolf on the play area, and it's graffiti everywhere, and it's on the ground. She was losing hope at that point, and seeing that message kind of gave her a sense of, well, wait a minute, why am I seeing this again? And that was to her the bit of hope. It was like
a bit of motivation. Yeah, that would. It probably is a bit of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
because again, I think part of what coming away from the adventure, being left on Earth, there was a lot of. It was the lack of closure as well as not being part of the adventure. It's like, well, I think the Doctor's going to lose. I don't know what's going to happen to humanity. I don't know if the Daleks are going to win. And then there's this, which is like, we never even got the answer to this. What was Bad Wolf all about? And that's the first hint that maybe I still have a part to play in this to find out, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's also like you were saying, it's that touch of the extraordinary back in her mundane life, which sort of sets her off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we come to the final scene of this story. Yeah.
So I thought it was quite interesting that, in a way, it was the Doctor kind of. It's the Doctor's kind of weighing up the fact that Rose has this young life and she's got her years ahead of her.
Yeah.
And he's got centuries ahead of him.
Yeah.
And he's making a sacrifice to shorten his long life so that she can have her comparatively short life, but it's a life that she can make a lot of she can do a lot with her life, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really sacrifice of the Doctor.
Yeah.
So the Doctor tells her that absorbing the vortex energy into himself has damaged him, and every cell in his body is dying as they speak.
I wasn't supposed to do that. Yeah.
I'm trying to both ease Rose's worry and explain the process of regeneration to her. The Doctor tells her that Time Lords have a trick that allows them to cheat death, but he will have to change, and this incarnation will not see her again. And then the Ninth Doctor last words to Rose are, "Before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I."
Yeah.
And with that, the Doctor grins from ear to ear and remains smiling to the very end. And moments later, he tilts backwards with a swift jolt. Blazing energy courses through his body, and before Rose's astonished eyes, the Doctor features change and he regenerates into his next incarnation. His short hair grows out rapidly into thick brown locks, and as the energy recedes, he raises back up with a different face, looking quite nonplussed.
Well, I mean, this is an interesting thing, because this is the regeneration that cements that the Doctor's kind of pair bonded with Rose, and like a little bit of the classic fan comes in me, because a lot of fans did feel like, well, does the Doctor shouldn't need to be saved by the companion to this degree, but this was kind of the moment where he was kind of thing, and this was a change. This is unlike. We never quite had that before, had we?
Yeah, it was a lot more. Obviously, you could see with Russell, he wanted the companion to be a lot more active, and this was the ultimate version of that, with what Rose did and the Doctor having to regenerate because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the Ninth Doctor who regenerates into the 10th Doctor, and that is with a bridge for the upcoming Livestream.
Has anyone heard the audios?
No, I will eventually get around to listen to them, because every trailer sounds brilliant, and Chris sounds good in every trailer.
Yeah. Is there someone who had already listened to Big Finish of the Ninth Doctor?
Rabbi's listened to a couple of them.
Rabbi has. Daniel's got them. I don't think he's got around to listening to them. God love him yet.
I don't have any. I don't have any knowledge about the Big Finish for Ninth Doctor. So there's something still to explore.
I keep planning to get them. And I keep planning to get an MP4 player so I can actually listen to them on a walk. But I really haven't got around to it yet. I've got to save up the money for it. You see.
Yeah, and it's just time with me. It's like, I have enough stuff, and now adding that, I have to literally be like, right, if I get nice things, I have to just find the time during the week that I can actually listen or read or watch. So probably around, I said at some point I will, because like I said, he sounds really good in them just off the trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is there something more to say, or shall we finish this?
I think we've done most of it. I can't think of much more.
That's right. So I want to thank. Yeah.
No, I mean the final moment with the choice. I mean, the Doctor's stance is quite defeatist, isn't it? When he says, "I'm not going to press the button. You win," kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think that's the whole point. Honestly, that's my reading of it. It's that he is defeated, but he's happy. No, he's not happy. That's not the right word. He's he's more comfortable being defeated this time, almost.
Okay. That's
Do you
very
think
important.
I mean, do you think maybe he has hope that humanity will put up the fight after him?
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe
Yeah.
Rose, he might think, even though he's put her somewhere technically safe, maybe she can sort of light the fire a bit or do something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I want to thank P.D. Rich
No worries.
and Sadeko. Yes, I said
No,
it.
Sadako.
You'll never get it right,
no! Oh no!
It's all right.
Sadeko.
Sadako.
Sadeko.
Sadako. Look, watch The Ring. It's a brilliant movie.
Oh, Sadako from The Ring, yeah.
Sadako from The
And
Ring. Yes.
okay, and I want to thank Queen Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
It was very nice to do this with 4, and everyone who listen to this enjoy it. And next time we do the 10th Doctor. I've made a playlist on my channel with all the doctors. You can listen to introduction to this series, and also from 1 till now. You can listen to it, and we will. And then for the next weeks, we discuss the other doctors also.
We've only got 4 left, haven't we?
Yeah,
10, 11, 12.
The 10, 11. Yeah, 4.
10, 11, 12, and
then we have a complete, and then we will have a complete playlist of all the doctors.
Yeah,
and
10, 11, 12, and Karen.
Weeping Angel Karen. If she remains like that.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah. Should just remain like that for the rest of the series. That'd be fine. We'll be all fine with that.
So,
Just gets knocked over, smashes on the floor, regenerates, and someone better.
You guys are cruel.
Brought on herself. What can I say?
I haven't seen the episode, so no.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know the ending. Rabbi shouted out to 100 times.
So everyone, have a nice day, have a nice week, and see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.